And I'll just, I took some notes, of course, while Professor Walters, our keynote speaker, was speaking, and he used also the phrase, the new frontier. And so that's sort of the theme I came up when I was preparing my talk about event horizon. So an event horizon is the area around a black hole that light cannot escape from. And so we are in the event horizon of AI, right? We've been talking about it all day, all morning. Those effects are coming. There's bound to be unintended potential negative effects.
Step out so we can see you.
Oh, okay. And there's also bound to be positive effects, right? But as with all new technology, new sectors, new industry, we rely on our government to mitigate the negative, maybe enhance the positive, build the access, and create a framework for the public to interact with it in a way to protect the public's interests. And so the legislators are working on that. And we all talk about the sausage making of legislation. It can take a while to get it right. And so I'm going to provide kind of a snapshot of where we are. Primarily in California, we'll talk a little bit about federal. So that's kind of my, did I click forward? You're trying to get it full screen? Yay! Okay, thank you. So I did want to mention, as we go in, there's just, earlier this month, Colorado has passed a statute that probably many states are going to look to, and it's the Colorado Artificial Intelligence Act, and it deals with algorithmic discrimination. So, right, all these new terms we're going to be learning about. This relates to both the developers of the AI models and the deployers, right, the people who use it and who put it out there for us. The folks who are looking at that and starting to analyze that act have said that it potentially creates a new duty of care, which those of us and Professor Federan know about, that's really important. Maybe that's going to show up in a few years in torts. And rules around risk management, documentation about AI, the use of AI, notification in the event of a high-risk AI system that causes algorithmic discrimination. And so some of the California laws have the same potential to get at those issues. As we talk about legislation, and we've seen this in other sectors, right, when new legislation is being presented, there are folks who say, you're going to stifle innovation. So I just am creating two different perspectives. So this is from a tech writer who is talking about a pending law that we'll talk about in a minute, and it talks about how it's going to create a litany of requirements. It's going to be too hard for these big tech giants to meet the requirements of law, so we don't need it. Just leave it to us, leave it to the tech, the big guys, and rely on their, the good actors. And then other folks, so this is ACLU, is looking at it that we need to have checks on our government as this technology is deployed. And some of what's happening in California is actually promoting the rollout of AI in government systems that we all interact with every day. So this, today, because as I was preparing, I said, I'm just going to test it. So this is ChatGPT. This was my input question. And I don't pay for the new upgrade. This is the old one. But it just is a great example. As of my last update, California has not implemented anything, basically. And that's several years old. So this is a great example of trust but verify. But this is actually important, and this is accurate. I have verified it. The California Consumer Privacy Act is unique to California in that privacy issues are regulated by that act and by a separate agency. In other states, it's regulated through Attorney General and through other state agencies. So that's just a little unique thing that's going to apply as AI legislation evolves. So the issues that legislators are trying to get at are involving disclosure when the government is using AI, right? The public, we have a right to know. When you go to the DMV, are they gonna be using AI to ascertain whether or not statistically, right, it's looking at what statistically is likely to be the case, looking at you, your driving habits, should you get your license? I don't know, I'm making that up, that's not happening. But as the government starts using these tools, just like we've discussed, the legal sector will be using these tools, they might be trying different things. And so the regulations are trying to get at requiring government to disclose to people when AI is being used and when your personal information is being used to teach and train the AI model. Equity and discrimination. There's a case where several men were arrested. They were black men, and they were arrested, just a case of an AI system being used by local law enforcement wrongly identified them. And what they found in after that was that the model that was being used, the way it had been trained, resulted in women and people of color being wrongfully identified at a much higher percentage than white men. And so that's, I mean, talk about systematic racism or discrimination. It's somehow built into that model, again, based on those inputs. So legislation is trying to get at that problem. Privacy is always a big issue that legislation is trying to get at with this. And then, of course, legislators do want to respond to the concerns around blocking and stifling innovation. So that's something they're also considering. So as of May 16th, 2 days ago, there were a bunch of committee hearings. And so these are active bills in the State Assembly, State Senate, and then I've listed a couple of federal acts that are pending as well. And we will go through those. Now I have to refer to my notes. Okay, so AB 213 focuses on consumer protection, and you'll see it's trying to build consumer confidence when AI is used. This is actually introduced by local Assembly member Jackie Irwin. She's here in Ventura County. And it would require developers of AI systems and services to publicly disclose specified information about the data sets used to train, test, and validate their models. There are some exemptions when the AI system is to help ensure security or integrity. And folks who are in support of it are advocates for transparency in government and consumer protection. And the Chamber of Commerce has come out opposed to this bill unless it gets amended because they think it might undermine competition and they have trade secret concerns. AB 3204, the Digesters Registration Act. So digester is an AI term. This act would require organizations that train AI using personal information to register with that California Privacy Protection Agency and provide particular information about the data used for training. Again, that highlights the use of personal information. AB 1791 is that when an individual's personal data is used, that anytime it would be regurgitated in response, the personal data is redacted, and then that the AI system may not ever redact provenance data. So provenance is about the source of the content you're seeing, and this gets into deep fakes and things where you don't know who made it, you don't know if it's real, and so it's trying to require that the source is known to the end user, the viewer, the public. 2930. So the AB 2930 is an anti-discrimination bill. It would require the deployer of AI to perform an impact assessment on any automated decision tool before using it. It imposes administrative fines up to $10,000 for each violation, civil penalties up to $25,000. It prohibits a deployer from using an AI tool in a manner that results in algorithmic discrimination. And the bill defines that as differential treatment or impacts disfavoring people based on their actual or perceived race, color, ethnicity, sex, religion, age, national origin, limited English proficiency, disability, veteran status, genetic information, reproductive health, or any other classification protected by state law. Moving on to the Senate bills. So the AI Accountability Act, this is a big one that everybody's watching, consumer protection and privacy. It would require state agencies, so this is monitoring the government, to publicly disclose whether individuals are interacting with AI. So that means if you go on to a state website, you're dealing with Covered California, you're dealing with my favorite, the DMV, any state website, if AI is involved, that you have to be notified at that time. And then as part of that, it would evaluate the risk presented by automated decision-making systems before adoption, right? So as that state agency is going to be using that system, prior to adopting it, they have to produce, and it's of course very in-depth, a risk evaluation report. SB 942, the AI, this one looked like I deleted it from my slide for some reason. Interesting. I'm gonna mention this one, somehow it's not on my slide, but it did pass appropriations on May 16th. So SB 942 is the AI Transparency Act. So the other one's the Accountability Act. This is Transparency Act. This focuses on consumer protection. This is, let's see, I'm just reading my notes, let's see. This is a private, so the SB 986 applies to government. This applies to private AI uses. So that again, if you're a member of the public on a website, that they're required to provide clear notice of the use of AI, and that the developer would create a publicly available AI detection tool on the developer's website to which the public can upload content. It imposes civil penalties, $5,000 each violation. SB 1047, this is also another one that's getting a lot of attention. There's tons of articles about it. And probably other tech folks can talk more about what frontier means in the AI world, but it targets frontier models. My understanding is that that's like as it continues to roll forward, right? So we're reaching new frontiers every day, all the time, and legislation, it's trying to make sure it's capturing as definitions change, language changes, that type of thing. And that as the AI systems expand and get kind of beyond the first levels. So for those frontier models, it would require positive safety determinations that developers must meet. And this talked about how the developer has to demonstrate that they could enact a full shutdown of the entire AI system if it became dangerous. This made me think of Terminator, right? The Terminator, like you gotta have that full kill switch. It also would require a public cloud computing cluster be created that would be called Cal Compute. And the primary focus would be conducting research into the safe and secure deployment of large-scale artificial intelligence models, along with fostering equitable innovation that includes a fully owned and hosted cloud platform. Also in that bill is that before a covered model would be trained, the developer would have to make those positive safety determinations, again, that it would lack hazardous capabilities. There would be protections and safeguards in place, again, that would be protect against misuse and make a full shutdown possible. And then other safety and security protocols that assure safeguards and requirements to the developer, and ongoing testing to require that safety. I did want to say about the state bills that this is in the context of what I'm seeing as a dual mandate. So it's happened in other sectors in our state where, so the governor has rolled out a directive to the state secretary to research the good ways that AI can be used, to create the guidelines, to test it, to really be pushing to promote it and roll it out, right? Because it's great technology, it can be very useful and lucrative for all the great AI companies in the state, lots of positivity about it. But then at the same time, the state has said we have to be really wary of all of these concerns. So the state's moving forward with promoting the use of AI and at the same time recognizing the potential issues with it. I feel like that wraps up. I was just listing the pending federal acts. The one thing I did want to say that folks are commenting on is that the American Privacy Rights Act raises state preemption issues, particularly for California, because we have that strong privacy agency in our own Privacy Act. And so for those of us in law that look at that federal and state interaction and where it can preempt, that comes into play with that. And that's it.
Good. All right, thank you.